will be this Saturday, February 27th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's a good opportunity to practice your interview skills and get feedback from professionals, so don't forget to sign up. This Wednesday, February 24th, we have CBiz presenting on emotional intelligence from 12 to 1 p.m. And please join us on Friday, February 26th. AA and SFA will be hosting a meeting from 5 to 6 p.m. with Michael Pattison, where he'll be sharing about his path to success and what it's like working at Disney. If you need any more information on AA or how to join, please join us on our last week of table sitting. The schedule is posted on Instagram. Lastly, keep an eye out for our weekly newsletter for updates and events. Follow us on Insta at CSUN to stay up to date, and look out for our YouTube site for our podcast. There's some really interesting topics.
Today we have Ms. Solomon and professionals from RSM presenting personal branding.
And we do encourage everyone to have their cameras on, and please wait till the end of the meeting to ask questions. So without further ado, here's Salam and her RSM professionals.
Awesome. Thank you all for the warm welcome. It's so funny when people call me Miss Solomon. I think about the days when I lived in Georgia in the South and everyone said Miss and Mrs. So you can call me Salam, makes me feel younger. But thank you all for having us. We love talking with students, especially these midday events. It kind of gives us a little mental health break from the busyness, the busy season. I really just love talking to students and remembering, why we do what we do. And so I'm glad that you all have events at CSUN for this, and especially the Saturday event that you guys have coming up. And we hope that today's presentation will kind of give you guys some more tips on how to brand yourself in a virtual environment, how to prepare for those interviews. Like most firms, our deadline is coming up. And so we're hoping that now that you guys have gotten kind of past that networking piece, you've hopefully attended Meet the Firms, we can now give you all some tips on how to move forward in this virtual setting of interviews, your resume, LinkedIn, and we'll touch on a couple things there. And then we'll wrap up with any open-ended questions that you guys have for the group. So I know most of you have seen my face, but if you haven't, my name is Salam. I am the audit and tax recruiter for LA and Vegas. My 1 year with the firm is coming up in March. So I started 2 days in the LA office and then we did work from home. So I'm here to tell you that virtual setting works. They don't forget about you. They will train you, but hopefully it'll be a little different when you guys start with whatever firm you choose. So I'll pass it to Tara to introduce herself.
Awesome, thank you. But hi, nice to see everyone again. Hi, Justin. Hi, Gabriella. Thanks for having us. For those of you that I have not met, I am the consulting recruiter. So I cover everything from the Seattle area where I live, the 5 offices in California, and then Vegas and Phoenix. So anything kind of within technology consulting, risk consulting, I am your girl for that. So excited to meet all of you and kind of help you through this process. Don't be scared, don't be intimidated, be ready to ask us some good questions.
Thank you, Tara. All right, let's pass it over to Lula.
Awesome, thank you. Thank you so much. So hi, everyone. My name is Lula Zariun. I am a CSUN alum, graduated in class of 2018. I studied accounting and finance, and I was a part of ALPFA Accounting Association and VITA Alpha Psi, just to name a few, and really excited to be here. I've been with RSM, I'm coming up on a year now, and I'm in the tax technology consulting group. So it's kind of a newer group here at RSM, and more than happy to share about my experience and answer any questions that anyone has.
Lovely. All right, Anita, with the beautiful background.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Anita Apnos. I'm also a CSUN alumni and graduated in May 2018, like Lula, and I'm also was like accounting finance member, part of ALPFA and the AA groups. I started my career with RSM about a year ago, part of the accounting method group in RSM, and I'm happy to answer any questions or concern you might have.
Love it. Okay. And without further ado, Faith.
Hi, everyone. I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. Okay, perfect. My name is Faith. I'm actually a CSUN alumni. I graduated in 2020, so it's yeah, in 2020, last year of May. I just started with RSM this January, but a little bit background before I started, I actually did Pathways and the internship back in 2019. I'm very happy to be here, with Accounting Association's meeting, as AA have a special part of me because I was very, very active and while I was attending CSUN.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you. So we'll just jump right in. And before we do that, oh, someone said they can't sign in. Okay, I'll look into that and make sure I gave you all the correct link. No worries. I'll make sure I get that before the end of the event. So let's just jump right into our presentation. Let's see here. Alrighty. So now that we've been virtual for about almost a year now, it's crazy. I heard somebody say on Instagram, I'm coming up on my pandemic anniversary, and I'm like, I hate that that's a thing. But since we're here, we're going to make the most of it and really just talk about how you sell yourself and your personal brand in the virtual environment. Our interviews are live, so you don't have to do anything recorded, like as if you're a YouTuber. So you will be live, and so we just want to give you all some tips on that. But before we jump into that, I want to give you all just a little about who we are at RSM. We have actually over 89 office locations across the US and 4 in Canada. Just opened a location in Alaska. So I say that to say, for those students who are interested in maybe other markets, you can definitely discuss that with Tara and myself. I've worked with students who went to school in SoCal, but they are originally from, let's say, Boston or Miami, and they want to go back home. We can totally get that set up for you as well. Over, I believe now it's 13,000 professionals. We are considered the 5th largest. So we have Big 4 and then we have the 5th, and we're considered middle market. So we cover audit, tax, and consulting. And our whole goal is to be first choice advisors to all of our clients. So when we say first choice advisor, what does that entail? We look at that as not only are we providing services to our clients, but we also want to provide them with top knowledge, advice for what they could do with next steps. And when the professionals talk more about what they do day to day, I think they'll be able to give you even more about what that entails and what that looks like. I always love touching on our 5 C's and our values. And I guarantee you, if you are chosen to interview with RSM, if you bring this up, so take a picture of this slide. If you bring this up during your interview, you're definitely gonna get some brownie points there. The partners love to hear people who are like, oh, okay, they know about it. They've done some research. So that would be my first tip that I'll give you all for whatever firm you interview with, to do some research on that. I know for me, it was really big that I got to see the 5 C's in action. Being that I was virtual, I wanted to see, oh, okay, are my colleagues going to be caring to me? Are they going to really show me what it means to, stewardship and teamwork? Because we believe in carrying these values, these characteristics, not just to our clients, but also internally as well. And you can even see it at our networking events and our campus recruiting events. I've worked for other organizations where recruiting events, it was just me, and it was so hard to get people to attend. But when I tell you the professionals at RSM love going on campus and love chatting with students, it just goes to show that teamwork aspect. So I'm going to pass it over to our professionals to share more about what it looks like in the day-to-day of their specific line of business. So I'm going to start with consulting with Tara, so she can kind of give you guys an overview of what that entails at RSM.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to help with that. So I'm sure this is probably very, very overwhelming. I was overwhelmed when I first started here, and I only focus on consulting. So don't let this be daunting. We as recruiters can really help you kind of figure out where you're going to be best suited based on your interests, your projects, your professional goals, your education. But when you think about consulting is really 1/3 of the business. And I always say, look at that kind of as the ceiling, or that overarching umbrella. And then these 5 or 6 areas actually are different silos that fall into consulting. So technology consulting right now is our biggest practice. That's really focused around business applications, infrastructure, data analytics. And it's kind of a myriad of backgrounds and skill sets that come into, this type of a role. Now, granted, if you have an accounting degree, we love you no matter where you want to fall within consulting for the most part. I mean, you might not want to be doing something in infrastructure, but if you're interested in implementing an information system and you're doing accounting and info systems, like technology consulting, business applications is like the sweet spot for you, same as like our risk consulting practice. And so there's a wide variety of different kind of roles and responsibilities that you can, have in here. If you're super interested in helping a client, let's say, make that transaction of either buying a company or selling a company, and you have really high marks in accounting, like transaction advisory is for you. So there's a really good variety. I would say, if you have the time, do a little bit of a deep dive, take a look at what these different practices are. I'll actually drop a link in a little bit to RSM Consulting Town. And so you'll be able to kind of see a little bit better, what that career path and what each practice looks like. But, I'm always happy to help, kind of provide you with the right information. But we love accounting majors, no matter where you want to fall.
Awesome. Okay. And Faith, tell us more about audit, your day-to-day. We know you're new, but share about maybe why you even chose audit and how it's been so far with you, your experience with busy season.
So when I started, it was kind of hard for me to choose. Like, I believe that goes for many students or some students. Definitely when it was my year and like my friends and the people who I'm graduating with had a difficult time where they were going. The one thing that really resonates with me is like when I did the pathways. So they were able to show us like what audit people do, what tax and like consulting. I actually gravitated in consulting, to be honest, but there was something about auditing that I really just like pulled me more than consulting. Um, Also, like now, like it's virtual. One thing that is very like weird for me in a way, because when I did my internship, everything was like we have to go to the client, interact with them, and then I'm able to see the team in person. So now it's that I actually have to plan ahead of time, right? So I even asked my in charge, I'm like, hey, what am I doing this week? So sometimes when I look at a work paper and I'm like, I think I'm gonna have questions, I already like scheduled for that meeting and like later in the week. In a sense for, like for audit is that audit is basically we examine the financial statements. So basically we perform these audits, these procedures. It could be like we're testing the samples, we're doing analytics to make sure that whatever they say on their financial statements is actually in accordance to GAAP. So that's like the general knowledge about it, about auditing. But it's more of like, I guess like right now, like what I'm doing is like I have a client that's actually in Arizona. So I'm on two time zones. Actually, I'm in like, California time zone and Arizona time zone. So like it's very different because I kind of want to be on their time. So that way we all start together and it together at the same time. But it's been good because like the client's been responsive and giving us all the PPC. So I've been busy and it's been like a productive weeks for me. So yeah.
Okay, good to hear that. All right, let me pass it to Anita and then I'll let Alula share more about tax as well.
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm part of the accounting method, and actually my career started about like 18 years ago back in my country. So where I started like being as a tax professional back in my country. So I just followed the same path when I came to US. And I'm part of the accounting method in RSM, which like accounting method for tax is like the treatment of the different item for the tax return. So whether we decide to include or exclude certain item on the tax return for different entities or corporations, like for example, such as like choosing overall method is like could be accrual or cash or like treating different aspect like let's say inventory, deferred revenue and stuff like that to make sure they're using the right method and they are getting the exact credit that they supposed to get. And if something is not right, we like change it to what it's supposed to be. So that's what basically our team does. And on daily basis, usually I work partially like being on a kickoff call with the team or my manager to get like some feedback or ask question, or like to know what is the next step on the project. And the rest of the day I either work on the projects, um, and also I'm part of a different ENG group, which I have like different events during the week, participating on different meetings or events that we have based on the ENG groups that I'm member of.
Awesome. Very well rounded. So you get some balance there, some fun work. It all merges. Great. And Alula.
So yeah, my day to day, it kind of it differs a lot. So like the group that I currently support, it's a national group. We focus on, it's a tax technology consulting group. So we're kind of external, and then also we're like internal. I think when I was like first contacted like about a year ago by RSM recruiter at the time, I was just like kind of intrigued and wanting to kind of continue doing what I was doing before when I started my career. So fresh out of college, I was a digital accelerator in tax at PwC. So it was really all about bringing like innovative solutions to doing tax and doing, the day-to-day work, right? So like before, like for instance, like as a first year associate, for instance, you would have a task of like during, filing season at the end of like, after all the work papers have been completed and all the returns are done and there's sign off. It's basically like this process of getting the partner to sign off the tax return, right? And so before it was a very manual step. You would have to have like someone that was sitting there looking at a PDF file with maybe hundreds of pages of PDFs, and they're looking just for a signature page, right? And so through the use of OCR technology, optical character recognition technology, we were actually able to look for the word sign or signature. You're able to automate that. So instead of having to spend hours like, sitting in front of a computer, just mindlessly clicking on something, wondering why did I like, this is like, I studied for 4 years, I got my degree, I got all this experience in school and everything. And now all I'm doing is clicking. So instead of having to do that, it's trying to find a solution. And then my sweet spot that I'm really into right now is like data visualization. So I kind of got into the whole aspect of data visualizations just because it was like, it was pretty much all about like storytelling at the end of the day. It's like, how do you take data, right? Because they say like 90% of the world's data was created in the past 2 years, right? And it's always going to continue to be like that. We're creating data all day, all the time. There's, wearables and smart devices and all types of things. And our clients are the same way as well. They have a ton of data. So at the end of the day, it's like, how do you take information that people are looking at normally in like an Excel spreadsheet or in some sort of like pivot table, and how do you create something that's visually appealing and also something that could give them better insight into their data? So like we had a really big project that just rolled out recently called the Partner Site. So it's we've been sharing on LinkedIn and advertising and promoting it and everything, and it's this really powerful engine that we've created. And so my part is like supporting with the data analytics for that. So I've created like a lot of reports and stuff. So my day-to-days could be checking in with the engagement teams and the pilot teams that we're running with, and getting their feedback and making changes. It could be supporting our go-to-market teams as they're going on pursuits and showing our products to the clients, to just be able to create like custom reports for them. And then we also do like a lot of other things too. So like I support like our innovation challenge committee right now. So I'm kind of helping to working with the technology group and also the recruiting group there to help to basically like create this amazing competition at the firm where we're teaching people how to innovate, and we're saying, hey, you have great ideas, you come up with ways of making your life easier. Maybe it might be a new business model that we're looking at. And so people get to submit it, win a big crash prize at the end of it, and really just get experience. So it's, yeah, no 2 days are the same. That's like the number one caveat I think with my job. And then I feel like it's a super like supportive and amazing like team that I work with. So just like flexibility. Like right now I'm talking to everyone. I'm in Houston, Texas, right? And we made it through the storms and all the crazy stuff that happened, which is pretty tough. But at the end of the day, like having the flexibility to be able to work like remote and be able to just log in and to Faith's point, like working in multiple time zones and everything else and juggling all those responsibilities is great. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in tax. I know when I first was like interning and all that, I was unsure where I wanted to go, and I was like even very focused on like consulting route, but I never realized that like within tax there's so many like different facets of tax and so many caveats that you can go in your career and everything. So it's a really fun area.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Alula. And I definitely want to add to your point, as you all see our opportunities on Handshake, you'll see that at RSM, we have internships in tax in several different entities or sectors, if you will. So you'll see business tax opportunities, but you'll also see state and local tax as an internship, private client services, mergers and acquisition recently just asked for an intern as well, international tax. So never feel like you have to, just learn about one thing. You can, if you want to specialize or learn more about what that specialty tax group is about, that's definitely, an awesome opportunity that I believe RSM offers, that you can go into that as an intern. So another big question we get from students is, okay, what's the difference between middle market and Big Four? And so I personally have no public accounting background. I'm very honest with you all. The most I have is doing my own taxes here and there. So I'm going to allow Alula to share more with you all about kind of the differences, because he shared that he started at PwC and now he's at RSM. And so share more with us, Alula, about the differences, maybe similarities, what you have found to be beneficial, what made you go Big Four to, now middle market. Just share more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned earlier, I started my career at PwC. I had interned multiple times. I had great experience. I have no negative things to say about any of the firms or places that I've worked for. And what happened was, as I kind of was getting to the point of completing that digital accelerator program, I wanted more technology experience. I was just like, this is something that I really, really am passionate about. I failed to mention earlier, I was one of the founders of the CSUN Blockchain Society. So I was always just intrigued with what emerging technology would mean to our profession and to this to the world. And so I was kind of unsure, and then at the time I had gotten some advice from a retired partner, and I said, hey, I want to be a consultant. How do I get into consulting? Because his background was in consulting, and just to have a candid conversation with him was great. So I just wanted to take advantage of it and try to learn as much as possible from him. And at the time he said, if you want to be a consultant, be a consultant. And I kind of processed that. I was like, wow, I didn't understand at first. I kind of was like, wow, I don't know if this is good advice, bad advice. I don't really understand how to process this, but I kind of sat on it for some time. And then I had an opportunity to kind of transition and come to a different firm, another Big Four firm. And they basically said, hey, we'll give you an early promotion. We'll put you into our technology consulting practice. You'll be client facing, and you'll get all of the things that you want, everything that you want. This is your wildest dreams come true. And so I kind of talked to my mentors and people around in my network, and I decided to make the move. But I quickly realized that there has to be more to life than just work and leveling up and all these things that kind of sound good and are shiny. That it's not necessarily all what it's cracked up to be. And so at the time I was kind of uncertain of what I wanted to do. Maybe accounting's not for me. Maybe I should go back to school, pursue some sort of other path or something. I was kind of uncertain at the time, but fortunately, there was a recruiter from RSM that reached out to me, and during that time, Neha, she basically was, sharing with me about her experiences at RSM and talking about how, the overall culture at the firm is super supportive of her and her family and the things that she's been able to accomplish since she's been at RSM, and just more about the culture and everything. And so I listened, and I decided to kind of have a conversation with the partner at the time. And when we spoke, it was an amazing conversation. He, was saying, hey, our team is growing. We're basically, kind of like a startup in a sense, where we're bringing in all these different people, but this culture at the firm is conducive of growth and learning and supporting and all that. And so, I made that leap of faith basically and decided to come to RSM. And it's been one of the greatest experiences ever. For me, when we talk about the 5 C's, for instance, I didn't really think too much about them before when I was recruiting. When I decided to interview and everything else, it was kind of, I was already in my career. I was kind of, doing just busy with working and stuff. So I didn't really do too much research. But when I came here, I saw it firsthand. When I saw the 5 C's, and I just thought about all my interactions with the people that I was talking to, and the leadership and the tone at the top and everything else, I saw it there. Work-life balance, it's an unfortunate thing when you hear it a lot, but when you're experiencing your first year, especially in public and Big Four accounting, it's almost non-existent. From my experience, I was working, nonstop 6-7 days a week, 12 to 16-hour days, traveling, from the Valley down to downtown LA constantly, or flying and going to clients and things like that, or going to events and things like that. So was a lot of like, there was just a lot of things, but I felt like since I've been in my team and here at RSM, it's been great because I have people that are checking in to make sure, hey, Lula, you're working a lot. Is everything cool? Do you need more resources to help you out with this? Or, hey, Lula, make sure you take off the, I had a senior manager tell me to, make sure I take the weekend off because I've done a lot over the, span of the week or something on the project. And so like little things like that. The ENGs, which are basically like the diversity and inclusion and like just employee engagement groups or communities that are here, has been great. Like even during COVID, like having yoga classes on the weekends, like being able to have access to that, and the firm actually allocating resources to be able to give us that is a huge thing. So I think from that perspective, and then also from being in a smaller organization, I think like you get a lot more exposure to things that you never really normally have done. Like I got promoted early and 6 months after being here. So I became a supervisor. I've been helping with like interviews and like, like my partner said, hey, if you want to start, trying to find clients, because I always talk about my sales background and wanting to, tell these stories to people and everything else. And he says, go ahead, you could do that. And having the ability to do that and having the, just to be in that ability to have multiple hats and things like that are amazing. So I think definitely there's a lot of really strong benefits, and you control your career as well, which is great. So from those perspectives, I think it's great. And also setting your own goals and expectations, and then being measured on your own goals and expectations that you set as well is a big thing. So
yeah, awesome, Alula. Yeah, I know for sure. I love that piece of being able to talk with your career advisor, set your goals, because sometimes, when you're in school, we have one goal, you want to graduate, but when you get into the career force, there are still goals, but sometimes the goals are given to you. But I love that at RSM, you can collaborate with your team lead as far as, okay, what do I want to accomplish? And it could even be personal goals or maybe certifications and things like that. So, and to pivot, we want to share with you guys, and Tara and I will touch on just more tips of how you all can leverage this virtual setting as you guys are going now into kind of the second phase of the spring semester of recruiting. I'm sure at this point you guys probably have some Zoom fatigue. You guys have done tons of events, so I applaud you all for attending these events. I see some faces like, yeah, we're tired. I get it, and I hope that you won't be in this virtual setting forever. But as you guys are now kind of pivoting to the aspect of interviews and preparing for those, we want to give you guys some steps and kind of some tips there. So I kind of put this quote, very cliche, don't even know who said it. We can pretend I said it, okay? So you really have, one chance to make a first impression. And so how does that start in the virtual world as well, okay? So when we talk about from the virtual setting, some things stay the same. The resume and the LinkedIn, still very, very essential. And this first point right here about it being a constant work in progress, I can 100% attest to that, because when I first moved to California, I was working for another organization, but I knew that I was going to eventually want to pivot. So I kept my resume updated. And just like Alula mentioned, an RSM recruiter reached out to me. And I'm so thankful that I had an updated resume, because I never wanted to delay on that or say, oh, give me a week to get back to you, but having that resume updated. And I believe CSUN, I think last week, you guys all had resume workshop. So utilize those resources that you have. Not all schools offer that. Stewart does an amazing job of providing feedback, providing some tips there. I think we won't go into depth about what you need to have on your resume, but I do think the two top things I tell students is make sure you have an email on there that you actually check, even if it's not your school email, because sometimes firms' emails get bounced back or get into your spam. So maybe have it designated like GabriellaJobs@gmail.com. And this is like your designated email that won't, our stuff won't get lost in there. Because I've had, situations where I've reached out to a student, they never responded, and I really like them. So I was like, are you ghosting me, or are my emails getting lost? Oh my goodness. So, having multiple versions for your targeted audience. If you have an objective on your resume, and some of you are kind of pivoting between applying to audit roles and consulting, make sure that objective shows that. Don't have a, one size fits all resume. Your LinkedIn, think of it as an extension of your resume. I know I look at people's LinkedIn. I don't expect you all to post as much as we post, but make sure that it's updated. Sometimes a student may not put their graduation date on a resume, so I'll go look on LinkedIn to see if they at least have it there, because I may not be able to quickly call you. So having that same updated mindset of updating your resume and updating your LinkedIn, so that consistency between both, okay? Connect with the professionals that you meet. A lot of times students ask me for people's emails. I'll be very honest. Sometimes people don't want to share their email just because they're very busy. And then also from an HR standpoint, we want to keep it the same across the board where you're contacting the recruiter first. But LinkedIn is a free-for-all platform. So reaching out to professionals on there, you can always reach out to them and say, hey, I just had some additional questions. I know that there have been times where Lula and Anita have sent me students who have reached out to them directly from LinkedIn, and then they'll continue the conversation on their email, and then they'll forward me the information. Once you get the interview, I always put the list of people that you'll be interviewing with. Make sure you do some research on them on LinkedIn. I had an interview when I first started with RSM, and I saw one of the partners went to CSUN. Please believe I made sure to name drop CSUN during that interview. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm an alum. And I'm like, I saw, so doing that research ahead of time. Some additional tips for virtual interviews. Like we mentioned, our virtual interviews are going to be live. I encourage you all to have your video on even during events, just to get comfortable with being on camera, being aware of your background. I always say control the controllables. So you can't control the time of the interview. You cannot control, what the weather is going to be like outside. You can't control who's interviewing you, but you can control where you're conducting your interview. So if there's maybe your roommates are being loud, try to do it maybe at a different setting. Or if that, like I heard some lawn work that was going on outside. If that, the garbage truck or something comes at a certain time, make sure you're doing your interview elsewhere. Again, being mindful of your background, making sure your phone's off, just to avoid any distractions that can possibly try to distract you during your interview. I always tell students, use up your interview time. It is designated for you. Our interviewers typically don't ask a lot of technical questions, so don't feel nervous if they're not asking you specifics about your, what do you know about audit, what do you know about tax, but they really want to get to know you. So be able to sell yourself, be able to talk about what you actually enjoy. Of course, share about work-related things as far as maybe you did a case study project in class, or you did some research on the firm and that's what intrigued you about, our innovation aspect, things like that. It's also your job to kind of interview us. Are we a good fit for you? Work-life balance is a very important thing at RSM. And if it's very essential to you, you can ask the interviewer, like, what do you like about the firm? What stands out to you about working at RSM? So have questions ready to ask. And I encourage you to ask questions like also during events. Anything you all want to add from the RSM side? I want to make sure I touch on everything.
I'll say a few things. Kind of going back to the previous slide, I always think about like resumes. I've been looking at resumes now for, I'm not going to say actually how many years, because that'll just like make me feel really old. But, for us as recruiters, like, of course, people put together these fancy resumes. We want it just to be readable. We want to be able to follow along with things. And a big thing for me, and I even heard this from a leader, we don't want to have to search your resume for something to find out, like, where is their education? Where is, their degree? Like, we want your guys' resume to have your education right at the top. Please, please, please put your graduation date and your GPA. Otherwise, we're going to have to come back to you or like do some digging, and it saves us so much time to have that information right off the bat. And it's okay if, like, obviously GPAs and graduation dates might change, but that helps us to make sure we're aligning people with the correct role as well. So that's a big thing for me. She mentioned, like the interviews and everything. And when you're talking and answering these questions, don't feel like you can't think about your answer either. The second they ask the question, you do not just have to start, rambling, let's say. Like, you are so welcome to take 5, 10, 15 seconds to pause and actually think about a well thought out answer, because the interviewer would rather see like you were kind of, doing some critical thinking and actually putting some thought into it, and maybe having, I don't want to say the right or wrong answer, but it'll be more in line with like kind of what they're looking for versus you just saying something and maybe not fully understanding it. And you can ask as many clarifying questions as you want to, because sometimes you might not understand what they're asking, or even at the end of it, say like, did that answer your question? And then they can say yes or no. And if they say no, they might then be able to elaborate a little bit more. So those are big things for me. Like, you're welcome to take a pause, collect your breath. That'll also, I just had a filler word, but it'll stop you as well from saying, those filler words as much as possible.
Great. Okay. Tara, did you want to touch on setting the scene and the STAR method?
Absolutely. And I will say the STAR method is never going to go out of style. I learned this in my interviewing classes back in college, so it is something that is going to stick around. But if you're not familiar, the STAR interview technique is really a straightforward format that you can use to answer like behavioral type interview questions. And for the most part, that's the types of questions that we're going to ask you. So these types of prompts ask you to provide a real life example of how you handled a certain kind of situation at work in the past, or maybe even just on a project. So I would say, you know, don't worry, you know, these questions are usually pretty easy to recognize. They often have like that telltale kind of opening of like, tell me about a time when a project didn't go as planned, or people didn't hold up their end of the bargain kind of thing, or what did you do when a roadblock came down? Have you ever, you know, give me an example. And so you know, as an individual and someone that's interviewing, you should have some of these answers kind of already like in your tool belt and in the back of your mind. Like always have something prepared just so that you don't have to sit there and think too long for like the answer. So you want to think of like a fitting example for your response. But that is just the beginning. You want to share the details in a compelling and easy to understand way without that like endless rambling. So if you do have your, you know, kind of responses already generated, that'll most likely help you stay like succinct. So it's helpful because it provides that simple framework. It provides a meaningful story and to share about your previous work experience. So definitely do a deep dive. I mean, we can always all help you kind of perfect your delivery on that too. You know, we're here to help you as, you know, prepare for your interviews if you have some questions or want to run something by us. But, you know, definitely start thinking about that situation, maybe 2 to 3 different examples. What was the task? So describe what your responsibility was in that situation. Talk about the action that you took. So what are those steps that you took in order to address something and like work out that problem? And then share the results. So what were the outcomes that your actions achieved?
Love it. I know I love this method also because it helps me to not ramble. So think of this as a way for you also in, you know, your head when you guys are answering questions to get to the outcome. Of course, don't leave out anything, but it also allows you to kind of in your head, okay, I have these bullet points I'm trying to get to, but let me make sure I get to the outcome so I thoroughly answered the interviewer's question. All right, some do's and don'ts. So, Tara, is this yours? Is me?
Me, totally, just like in La La Land, clearly.
Nice.
But
you're fine.
I'm like, so, you know, listening to you and taking tips and tricks and all of that. But, you know, there's obviously a lot of do's and don'ts when it comes to interviewing. I will say some of them common sense more often than not. You know, the big one I would always say is just treat everyone with respect no matter what. So like it says on here, from the admin person at the front desk to the janitorial staff, and then all the way up to the partners. This, you know, shows us a lot about you. In my office, it's a really small office. And one of our ways that like, and I don't want to say that we're judging someone, but like we kind of rate them. Do they come in and immediately introduce themselves to whomever is at the front desk? You don't want the front desk admin, granted we're all virtual, but you don't want the front desk person to be like, who is this person and why are you standing there or sitting there? Like walk in, introduce yourself, shake their hand and tell them why you're there. And like maybe like I would say like, hi, my name is Tara Skirl. I'm here for an interview that starts at 1:30 with whomever. And then they can double check their list and then, you know, kind of help you get seated, show you where the restroom is, get you a bottle of water, but that will take a lot of the questioning out of them. And in my office, if someone does or doesn't do that, we always find out kind of what that first reaction was. So, you know, just kind of make those extra steps. It'll go a long way. You know, we also put on here, don't make up lies to impress the interview, or we all discuss every candidate that we've met, good, bad, or ugly. So make sure you are just being yourself, telling the truth, as well as keeping your stories consistent kind of thing. Because obviously when people are telling lies, people are going to get caught up, and we're going to, you know, do an interview debrief. And so then we will all be sharing kind of that information that we shared. And then another huge thing is just don't talk down about someone else or another firm or, you know, an employer or a manager, team member, classmate that you've had. You know, it is a really small community that we work in. We know our colleagues, at different firms, a lot of times, we have people that leave RSM to go elsewhere, and they could be someone that we know. And so we don't want that to kind of get back and forth between us. I mean, I think Alulu talked about like his previous experience at the Big Four. The Big Four has some very great qualities that are going to be very transferable when you come to work at, RSM, and you will never hear Salam and I like talk bad about like the Big Four. And that's a big thing that we always say here, because there's a lot of great qualities that you'll get from other employers. And then, for us too, we will be thinking about like, oh, if they left RSM, are they going to talk about us like that? So, it's really thinking about like brand awareness, because you don't, it's totally like you don't want to burn that bridge.
Right. And to add to Tara's point about, not making up things, I want to reiterate that, because when we have students who come and say in one interview or to one recruiter, I'm interested in audit, and they go to Tara and say, well, I'm interested in consulting. And then me and Tara are talking like, well, what did they say to you? So be consistent about what you're interested in, because it's not like we're both going to evaluate you for an opportunity, because before we do interviews, we always go through our list of candidates. You can only be considered for one position in one office at a time. So if you are honest and you don't know, okay, I don't know which line of business I'm interested in, we'd rather you be honest up front. And what we'll always tell you is, well, you want to do some research on the front end, because you're going to, again, only be considered for one role at a time. But you can let us know that, and we can maybe even connect you with an audit and a tax person, maybe, so you can ask them more in-depth questions that are relative to you, so that you can make a decision, because our applications are specific by line of business. So going into your next move, all of our positions are posted on Handshake, and it'll redirect you to our RSM U.S. career website. So you only have to apply once, and our deadline is this Sunday at 11:55 p.m. Pacific time. So do not delay. I had somebody say, well, Handshake said March 1st. I'm telling you now, sometimes there's some tech difficulties on their end. Please make sure you get your application in before then. It's a very simple application. And so on the left, it shows when to apply. So if you're on the 4-year track, or maybe you're on the 5-year track, I try to avoid using the word sophomore, juniors, as this diagram shows, because everyone's at a different place. But what we're currently actively recruiting for is for our summer leadership program that comes with an internship opportunity. So in the past, you attended the summer leadership program and then possibly got an offer to an internship. How we're doing it this year is you apply to our internships. So for winter, which is January of 2022, or summer, which is June of 2022, for an internship position, which comes with the invitation to our virtual summer leadership program this May. So those opportunities are reserved for students who have at least 2 summers left before their CPA eligibility date. So if you are going to be CPA eligible December of 2022 or May of 2023, you are in that perfect sweet spot to apply to these opportunities. So I know that can be a little confusing, but that information is listed in all the job descriptions on Handshake. And of course, if you have additional questions or maybe more specific to you, you can definitely connect with me after this event, and I'll drop my email in the chat box. But the main thing I want to share here is you definitely don't want to delay, because we are going to be assessing applications soon. If you've already submitted an application, just know that we will start assessing those and inviting students to interview in March. Tara, did you want any specific about consulting, anything different?
That's a great question. So I would say for the most part, when it comes to consulting, people are a little less likely to be going for their CPA. So you will kind of be more so looking at like the 4-year track. But I do not want to discourage anyone that is kind of CPA eligible or anything like that to like not go for it, even if they're interested in consulting. We still love having CPAs on any and all of our teams. Clients love that. That just is an invaluable experience. So don't let that discourage you. And don't think just because you're not an accounting student that we, aren't interested in you. We love technology backgrounds, data analytics. So, but that would be more on that 4-year track. And so typically right now for anyone that is wrapping up their sophomore year, you'd be eligible for any of our pathways programs. And then for anyone going the CPA track, you're wrapping up your 3rd year.
Awesome. Okay. And then Tara, if you can share more about our scholarships, and then we'll open it up to question and answer.
Yeah, absolutely. But we do have 2 really cool, totally misreading right now, but we have 2 great opportunities to sign up for some scholarships. The first one is Power Your Education, and that is for anyone that is currently 2 years away from your graduation date. So we have $10,000 scholarships that we're offering up for this coming school year. You must have a 3.0 GPA or higher, and then pursuing a business or a technology degree. And then you also have to be someone that's not an immediate family member of any RSM employee. It's a quick, like, I think, what is it, 60 seconds, 30 seconds? It's a really short video, just kind of focus around what it means to you to, like, for the power of being understood and being yourself at RSM, which is something that you'll hear us talk about all the time. Very similar when you're thinking about the first generation scholarship. This is actually a brand new scholarship to the firm, so we're really excited about it. But there are going to be 5 scholarships for students that are, up to $30,000, and they still have about 3 years left of school, or maybe just 2 or 1. It really just depends. But we're looking for that first generational college student. So definitely take a look and apply. I can drop the link to the page here in the chat box. There's a couple of different opportunities, but both of them are just quick videos that you have to submit. No essay, no nothing. And then the deadline is February 28th at 10 o'clock Pacific time. Right? Okay.
Beautiful. I forget the exact time, but again, you don't want to delay. I know when I was a college student, I saw these applications and I was like, I don't feel like doing it. It's going to be so complicated. And I look back now, whoa, I look at my student loan debt and I regret it. So I'm telling you all, we want to have, West Coast winners. We've had winners in the past from CSUN, USC, Cal Poly Pomona, and really all over the West Coast, as well as our other regions. So of course, we're going to root for the West. But I encourage you all, take some time to apply. It's a very easy video. You don't even have to be in the video. We've had students, if you go to our website, you'll see some past winners. If you know how to edit a TikTok video, you should, definitely be applying to this. I'll say that much. It's much simpler than the TikTok video. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now so we can do some live Q&A. Who wants to kick off? What questions do you guys have for the group?
Well, I did have a question. I know Anita brought up her involvement in the ENGs. Would you mind going more in depth in that and what kind of activities you guys do?
Sure. So we have like different ENG groups like STAR, Multicultural, Family First, or like newsletter, or like fun events ENGs. So we have like a different group of ENGs that each one like focus on certain things. Like for example, the STAR and the woman is like related to the women's in the work related or in the life in general. And we do some activities like reading the books or like participating in different events related to the women and STAR. Like the multicultures, like we had like events like about the Black Life Matters and stuff that we participate in those events as far as like being a part of the multicultural ENG group. Family First, like we had some events like giving some tips and tricks for like parents or the ones who are taking care of the older people, that how they can manage their time during this pandemic situation. Our fun events, like we are trying to like create some fun activities like maybe like cooking contents or like table decoration on different holiday that people have, and put like some friendly competition between team member and create some fun. And that's one of the things we do. And then we have like the newsletter that we share some news across the firm with all the people, or like each office, like the LA office, like shares the what's happening in that month in the newsletter with all the other members. So things like that, which kind of like give you an opportunity to kind of distract from the work and get to know other people in a deeper level and interact more and expand your network, which is really great opportunity.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
I have a question
The
for Faith. Oh, you can go ahead. Real quick about what did you do to help you decide between audit and consulting? Like, what was the biggest help?
First, it was the people. I could say that. Actually, okay, I'll give you guys like a little story. So first it was the people. I think the ones in audit, like I got along with them really well. And then I think everyone I also got along with tax. And it was really hard for me at the end. And I kind of like went into like, okay, what do I like to do? Right. I'm like this person like who likes to check everything. I'm like, okay, what am I doing at this day or tomorrow or like in a month? So like I guess like when it comes to auditing, it's kind of like transfer to that too. It's like, what is this client doing? Right? Like, is what they're saying is actually what they're saying on this, like test and like all these transactions. So also like when it comes to auditing, like you can transfer that like in different industries, right? So that's one thing about like with RSM is that when you're first and second year, you get to get different tastes of different industry, and you're trying to see like which one like kind of resonates on your like what your liking is. So that's one of the thing. And when I was still a student, I was really thinking like, is audit really for me? So what did I do? I went for VITA and I was really active. I did operations for VITA and I realized that tax is not for me. I'm not saying it's bad, I loved it. I love helping people, but I think I want to help people like in a bigger I guess like in bigger transactions. Like also when you're doing VITA, like when you go to public accounting, it's way different what, versus to what you were doing in VITA. It's different. Like you're doing different entities in tax, right? Like you're doing corporate partnerships and yeah, so LLC. So those are like, I think it's just more for me. It's that I guess like I like to like check things and to see what it really is. I think that's just really for me. So yeah.
Leander had a question.
So sorry about not looking so professional right now, but I was just this is a question directed to Alula and Anita. I remember you guys in the beginning said you graduated with a bachelor's in accounting and finance, and as someone who's trying to like add on finance to their accounting degree as well, I was just wondering what benefits you saw in having that dual like focus with finance in your careers.
Yeah, great question. So I think it's like if you like finance, I think it's a great like program at CSUN. I enjoyed like all the classes. I was in business honors, so I had like the portfolio management. I did the class with James Chong, Dr. Chong, Dr. Yeah, it's just a bunch of like really great classes and stuff over there. So I was like always interested in it, and even as like a kid, like like I always wanted to be like a stockbroker, right? Like that was just like one of the things. So like I just wanted to kind of like keep that like education part. And then in work, like I've pretty much like my whole career has been in like the financial services space. Like at PwC, I was doing real estate tax, and then I did asset wealth management, and then now I'm kind of like in a partnership space, or I'm in the partnership space. So we do a lot of like work with like hedge funds and private equity funds and like family offices, and like so like having the finance background helps because then I like understand like when we're talking about different types of topics, like it makes sense. And then from an analytics standpoint too, like working on like creating reports and things, that's like, okay, well, like what does this mean for like financial, like, people that are interested in like trying to understand like what the financial health of a business is or some sort of decision that they're making and stuff. So like understanding a lot of those concepts that we covered in school kind of makes it so that the topics aren't too far off. And then I'll also throw in their statistics too, believe it or not. When I took stats in college, I was like, oh yeah, I'm glad I'm like never gonna have to see this ever again after I took my stats class. But you throw finance, statistics, and and that whole data like space as well, like that's a big deal there too. So number one thing is just kind of like if you're interested in finance, you should do it because it's not gonna hurt you, and then it's something that actually like will benefit you in the long run. So
Thank you.
Also, could I add something? So if you're that person or student that wants to see a whole picture of the operations of a company, you might want to get into audit. I'm more than happy to explain more about like what I do, especially as a first year, because it's like I'm like soaking all this information and I'm just like being a sponge. And then, like I think it's there's different perspective, especially when you're in different stages of like your position. Like, but as a first year, like you learn so much, like you learn what you like, what you've learned in class. Like right now, like actually, yeah, like right now, like I'm doing intangibles. So like I'm going back to 352. I actually like even like go on into like my book. I still have it. And it was actually it would actually help me with like doing the samples for this and then doing the analytics side of it too. So yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you. It really does.
I was going to say before we wrap up the event, I want to make sure you guys all saw in the chat box the sign-in link. The first one I sent there was an error on it, but the one Tara sent, if you guys could take a minute to sign in there. I think we have time for one more question.
Yes, Justin, go ahead.
So just to build on that, Faith, I love hearing how you can like be really curious and just knowing that what you learn now could change and you're going to get to learn a lot in your career. So I really appreciate hearing that.
I never stop learning. That's the good thing, and that's what I enjoy like about like working with people too. Like you'll meet like you'll see, like I love it here where like there's a lot of like rolling up the sleeves and like working and stuff. Like I remember before it'd be like you could have like different people. Like maybe a manager, director, something, they'll pass you the work and then it's just you working on it. But here it's like I've been on projects where the partner is actually doing some of the work. I'm like, that's great, you're still learning as well, so.
That's so true, Alula. It's funny because last year when I moved from Georgia to LA, I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do with my taxes? And I like literally messaged somebody and they were like, let me look it up for you. And always just learning. And then with the CARES Act, it's just, again, being that first choice advisor, you guys are always doing research of what to advise your clients. And I took advantage of that. I won't lie. So I think we have one last question. I think Nanelia, I hope I said that correctly. Go ahead.
Yes, you said it correctly. So my question is about the LinkedIn. Like, as a student, what we should post on LinkedIn? Is it only a business related or any other ideas you can give me?
I think as far as on your page, there's an opportunity for you to put like your education, your graduation date, your CPA eligibility date. If you have any work experience, it doesn't just have to be accounting related. There's also a portion where you can put extracurriculars that you're part of. So you can put Accounting Association member, but it's also a tool for you to use, also for you to research professionals. If you're interested in RSM or any of the firms, you can follow that firm's page as well. And that's a great place for you to do your research about the firm, not just on the website, but a lot of times we're posting our current happenings. If you're, looking for work, you can always, I know LinkedIn has a feature where you can turn on that you're looking for work, and that will also prompt recruiters to find your page.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would like to add something that I remember Stuart always like mentioned, like if you do like other activities, like let's say you not even job related, like maybe you are doing a volunteering job or something even not work related, add it on because that is kind of explaining who you are, even though like beside the work related activities. So I would recommend putting any similar activities that you have in your LinkedIn as well.
Thank you, Anita.
You're welcome.
All right, well, thank you everyone for asking great questions. We're gonna do a quick picture. I will count us down. So 3, 2, 1. Salam, you ready? Smile. And we have a second page. 1 second. 3, 2, 1. Got it. Well, thank you again so much. This was very, very informational and helpful. So thank you for coming out and speaking with us today.
Thank you for having us. Best of luck, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the
Bye.
presentation.
Thank you, everyone.